Morning, my fellow human beings. Dion here. Many of you are probably aware at this point in time that there's been a sad scenario play out at Bondi Beach in Sydney, a mass shooting sort of scenario. A number of folk have passed away, and a number of folk are injured as well. So very sad stuff. Now, it's not that common a thing in Australia, so it's a bit of a shock when it happens, which is what I'm noticing online today. A lot of folk are quite upset about it from a number of different angles. It's that sort of situation isn't that common in Australia, and that's because just around the turn of the century, just before some strong gun control laws were put in place. And I think it was a good thing. Off the top of my head, I could only think of three or four sort of mass shooting sort of situations over the last decade that have played out. So it's not a common thing, and I do feel that it's because of the strong gun control laws that are in Australia. Now that's not to say that the guns aren't available if to look at it on the illegal side of things, but generally speaking, most folk in Australia. There are certain areas where farming and outback, etc., there are reasons why people need guns, but generally speaking, in cities, etc., there's people don't have the right to own guns, and they'd have to have pretty good reasons to carry guns. Certain scenarios, like I was trained in the security industry in my younger years, I did qualify to hold a firearm, but I never went through with it because it just didn't really interest me, that side of things. And I've been around guns in my younger years. A lot of folk I knew were shooters. They go to the outback, etc. They were licensed to carry those sort of weapons. But saying that, a lot of them handed those weapons in when they knuckled down the gun control law side of things. And that's because they didn't want to have issues in the future, because they knew the laws were changing. But saying that, I'm not a fan, and that's I've made no secret of that over the years. I would prefer that we get our act together as a society, learn how to treat each other better, get on with each other better, have a better education systems in place. Our police forces, to the core, if they're rock solid, the ethics side of things and the principles and how we teach our force to function, so to speak, then we shouldn't really need to carry all of us. We shouldn't really have to be armed to the teeth as such. That is my stance, and that's not going to change anytime soon. And I could easily point my finger. In regards to why I'm on the online side of things, I sort of dabbled really the whole right to bear arms side of things in America. Now I know because I just looked this morning because of this situation, but I've kept an eye on things, and there's a lot of mass shooting scenarios in America. This year, I think it's around 400 mass shootings this year alone, 2025, and to do it over a period of years or a decade, like I said, I can think of three or four scenarios here in Australia. I assure you it'll be a lot more than that in America. So there is a big difference depending on where you go in the world, and how it's all set up, how our everything about our community, how we look at each other, how we treat each other, cultures, all of it. It all plays a role in one way or another, but at just fundamental levels, I don't think it's a good idea for all of us to be armed to the teeth as such. Now, places like America, I don't think you'll be dealing with taking away the Second Amendment anytime soon. It is what it is, but that's their issue that they're going to have to deal with as time goes on, or in an ongoing manner, really, because as I said, this year I'm pretty sure it's close to about 400 mass shootings this year alone. So it's an ongoing issue, and with the way the world is at the moment, there's a lot of back and forth. We're not really getting on that well. There's every chance that those statistics will drastically worsen as time goes on. There's a lot of guns in America, a lot of guns. So yeah, I'm not really a fan of that approach. I'd rather we take the, let's try and get on with each other, have, to the core, strong in their values, their principles, their mandates in regards to how they function, our police forces. I'd rather take that approach than have to walk down the street and be concerned about who's armed to the teeth at any given point in time. I don't recall the last time I went out, and I'm always out and about and saying hi and how you going to every other person that I see. I don't recall the last time I felt like I was a bit, were they carrying a gun or some such thing like that. It's a very rare thing in Australia. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff bouncing around online at the moment, and I will say it straight up. The whole Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. There's a lot of folk trying to say, well, that's where the strong gun control laws in Australia have failed. Rubbish. If you go to the statistics, like I said, I can think of 3 or 4 in the last decade compared to 400 just this year alone in America. That argument doesn't stand up. To take it, to the nuts and bolts levels and put all the statistics on the table, etc., that argument's not going to stand. But that's what's happening online at the moment, and I get the feeling like there's pressure being put on. This sadness that's played out in the last 24, 48 hours. It's just people are using that to try and say, well, no, it didn't work out. You should go our way. I won't buy into that, and I wouldn't recommend anybody following, trying to push that down my throat as such online, because I'll just involve the Donald Trumps of the world, etc. Do you want to talk about domestic gun violence statistics in that country as opposed to this country? I'm not shy in that way. So, that's my stance, and I will stand by it. A good example, I used to say it online. I've said it a few times over the years. You'll find it around. Let's say and keep in mind I'm trained in regards to I can defend myself, look after myself. You won't get near me, and I'm heading towards 60 these days, sore neck, sore back, etc. But I can still look after myself. You'd have trouble getting near me if you'd want to catch me from behind or something. So keeping that in mind, let's say I walk into a nightclub with a couple of knives on me. How much damage could I potentially do before a bunch of folk jump on me and basically sort me out? Now, let's say I walk into that same nightclub, not with knives, but a couple of high-powered weapons and a bunch of ammo. Again, how much damage could I potentially do before a bunch of folk jump on me? And remember what I said about, I'm capable when it comes to defending myself. You just won't get near me. You'd have to, as I said, get me from behind or some such thing. And if I'm running around with a couple of high-powered weapons, people aren't going to be too keen to get near anybody, let alone me. So yeah, that's just a scenario in regards to. I don't think that's the right path for us to take. Each to their own as far as this country takes that approach, as in, America and the Second Amendment, etc., and Australia, and we have very strong gun control laws here. But my personal preference is I would rather live here when it comes to this side of things, and I would rather feel comfortable to be able to walk down the street and not have to be concerned about who's got a high-powered weapon. Because I can tell you right now, if I even visited America, I wouldn't feel comfortable. I just wouldn't feel comfortable because I know that there's a lot of high-powered weapons in America, and it's a very common scenario to have mass shootings in America. So yeah, just a quick touch base. Very sad what's happened at Bondi Beach. I hope the rhetoric and the way it's been bounced around in regards to how people are talking about at the moment, I hope it settles down and go, well, as a whole, as a community, let's try and work through this, comfort the people that need comforting, and then try and get through it and move past it without escalating things, because there's I don't like the tone online at the moment in regards to how people are talking about this side of things. It happens regularly. I remember a shooting in New Zealand a few years ago, because I'm a Kiwi by birth, and it was a similar situation. The whole right to bear arms sort of mindset got involved and go, well, you've got to change things, this, that, and everything else. But I'd like to think we just calm down. America, if they want the right to bear arms, not that they're going to get rid of that anytime soon, but okay, I'm just not going to go there. But I would like to think that that sort of doesn't change how we do things in this part of the world, because I'm quite happy with the fact that I can walk down the street and say hi, how you going to most folk, get a hi and a nod back, and not have to be concerned about who's armed to the teeth. Anyway, I just thought I'd touch base, my fellow human beings. We could talk about this stuff in more detail. Statistics go to that side of things and really get into it. But I just thought I'd say a quick hello and say, it's sad what happened. Let's work through it together, figure it out, comfort the folk that need comforting, and not lose our way in regards to this is how we do things here, and hopefully we don't make a course correction in regards to what I see as reasonably strong. I'm not going to argue against them, gun control laws that they have here in Australia. Anyway, I'll leave it there, my fellow human beings. Regards, Dion. Peace to you and all, including all our future loved ones as yet to come. Gone.